Do you sometimes feel like you're just not good with money? The truth may be that you simply have the same bad bank account structure that most of us get given when we start out. I'm Max Phelps from Golden Eggs, where we're on a mission to help people stop worrying about money and get on the path to financial freedom. Now, when we were in our 20s, my wife Kelly and I used to be terrible at saving, and it seemed the more we earned, the more we spent. We thought we were just bad at it until we discovered it was a structural issue, not a psychological problem. It wasn't because we weren't motivated enough or not disciplined enough or because of how our parents made us relate to money. It was simply the way that we'd set up our bank accounts with a transaction account, a credit card, and a savings account. I'd like to use the analogy of weight loss. Australia has an obesity epidemic, and Australians also have become terrible at saving and are borrowing more and more every year. Now, imagine Sam and Joe both had a serious weight problem that made them feel depressed. So they went to see a psychologist. The psychologist tried to understand the root cause of the problem, their deepest insecurities and dark past, and how they eat to make themselves feel better, but hate themselves for eating too much at the same time. The psychologist then helped them reframe their insecurities, set realistic goals, and they leave feeling motivated, confident, and committed to getting back to a healthy weight. After a short while, they returned to the psychologist because while they'd stopped feeling bad about themselves, their weight had gone down, but then it crept back on. Now imagine during the course of the next conversation that it turned out that they lived next door to a hotel that gave their neighbours, them, a fantastic discount on their buffet. So Sam and Joe ate all their meals at the hotel all-you-can-eat buffet. Further probing uncovered that they kept a giant cookie jar in their living room so that when their nephews and nieces and friends came to visit, there'd always be cookies available. The cookie jar was topped up every time they got paid and had the money to do so. No matter how their insecurities were addressed, how motivated they were to lose weight, do you think they would be successful at getting to a healthy weight if they carried on eating all their meals at the buffet and kept the giant cookie jar in the living room? It'd be blindingly obvious that the structure of how they were having their meals and keeping the cookie jar would need to change as soon as possible. So, how does this relate to money? Well, apart from some very focused periods, Kelly and I kept falling behind where we should be. Our bank balance or asset balance wasn't as healthy as we know it should or could be. Sometimes it stressed us out and made us feel like we weren't good enough, or that our parents' attitudes to money or spending habits somehow shaped us. The standard approach of most finance professionals tends to be to encourage more focus, set bigger goals, and arrange regular accountability checks. Psychologists even talk about our disconnect with money and how our spending patterns don't really make us happy. The problem is much more likely to be structural, how we organize our finances, than be psychological. Like most people, Kelly and I had credit cards, which instantly let us buy anything we feel like at the time. Now, these are the equivalent of Sam and Joe eating at the all-you-can-eat buffet. We don't use a credit card anymore, but found that unless that you have credit card limits at a fraction of your monthly income, like a $500 limit for someone earning $5,000 a month, rather than a multiple of income like a $15,000 limit for the same level of income, then the only time we're not at risk of overspending is when we're asleep. I've even heard finance professionals telling people to put all their expenses on credit card to get the free travel and have their money sitting in a high interest account. This is like a psychologist telling Sam and Joe to eat at the all-you-can-eat buffet to save them having lots of food sitting around in their cupboards at home and going to waste. The motivation and discipline levels required to do this are off the charts. Free travel points are like the hotel giving Sam and Joe free personal training vouchers with every 50 meals eaten at the buffet. Sure, personal training sessions will feel free and may help with weight loss, but they could have lost way more by not having those 50 meals at the buffet. The same with credit cards. Once we organise our money to save for a holiday, we don't need to get one for free by overspending every month. No credit card, great, but what about the cookie jar? The cookie jar is like the account we have our pay going into. Most people have card access to all their pay all day, every day. The chances are we'll spend more of it than we plan to, in the same way that we'd eat more cookies if they're on show all the time. Well, what about transferring most of our pay to a savings account before we can spend it? Well, that might work. But if it's just a savings account with the same bank, it's like moving the cookie jar into the kitchen. Sure, we can't see the cookies as often, but every time we go to the kitchen, which we know is fairly often, there'll be the temptation to grab a few cookies and take them back to the living room. It's the same with online banking. The temptation is always there to transfer funds from our savings into our spending account. Surely it'd be better to either stop buying cookies or just buy one small pack a week. And that's why it's easier to see when they're gone for the week and easier to budget for when visitors are coming, especially on the weekends. We recommend that people either stop having their pay land in an account they can access, or to get rid of all the cards linked to their pay account and getting a new account with a different bank that's really slow to transfer to, but has card access, and then giving themselves a small weekly allowance, enough to cover the basics of the weekly expenses, with a priority on spending time with other people, like lunches or nights out with friends. Sharing cookies always feels better than eating them on your own. A good diet and exercise regime is key to reaching a healthy weight, but it's okay to have an occasional off day or a planned one for a birthday, wedding or holiday without beating ourselves up about it. It's not that we can never visit the buffet, it's just that we need to do it for special occasions and not just part of our everyday routine. And it's the same with money. We found that saving for our future and saving to spend are entirely different purposes. Separating our savings out to spend for later things like holidays and fun, and then labeling us, gives us permission to spend some of our savings and not the rest. So 4 quick tips to get your savings on track for a healthy financial future. Number 1, reorganize the flow of money through your accounts. We found that a minimum 5 bank accounts spread across 2 banks makes managing money and hitting multiple savings goals easy. Less than 5 bank accounts across less than 2 banks is hard, and most people fail. Number 2, cut up or hide the credit cards. They're like eating at the buffet. We're grown-ups with money of our own. Do we really need to borrow money from a bank to buy our groceries or a cup of coffee? Eating at the buffet to get free personal training sessions makes as much sense as spending on card to get free travel. Our motivational self-control won't be perfect for 100% of the time. Normal people with normal levels of control and self-discipline overspend with credit cards and overeat at buffets. Number 3, separate your pay account from your normal spending account and give yourself a weekly allowance. This is the small pack of biscuits every week. Studies have shown that people spend less and feel more confident and in control with weekly amounts versus the exact same amount every 4 weeks. They also tend to be more generous and prioritize spending money with others instead of alone. Now, number 4, save for holidays in an account labeled holidays and for fun in an account labeled fun. It's far more rewarding than getting free points and makes it clear that future savings and savings for a holiday are not the same thing. Now, you're probably thinking that you're not as unhealthy as Sam or Joe, or not as bad at saving as someone you know with big debt problems. But on average, we're overweight and overspending. So staying average is bad for your long-term physical and financial health. Wouldn't you like to be better than average? Our weight and saving problems are often structural and not psychological. Reorganize your day and access to food for better health, and your access and flow of money for greater savings. Firstly, a minimum 5 bank accounts with at least 2 banks works best. Second, ditch the all-you-can-eat credit cards. Give yourself a weekly allowance instead of your whole giant cookie jar of pay. And fourthly, save up to spend later. Holidays and fun should be part of our lives and not backward steps in our savings. For more tips on the psychology of money, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'm Max Phelps from Golden Eggs. And remember, always be genuine, have fun, and stay curious.